We did it. I think we're live. I'm also gonna check on my phone to see if we're live because I don't know. First live show. Yep, we're live. Sick. See, it's us. We did it. All right, man. Happy Monday, brother.
Yeah, Monday.
I feel like I haven't seen you in a month, and it's really only been a couple days, but that's because I was gone again.
Yeah, I mean,
I
you've
guess
been
we
gone.
could. Yeah, what I left Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Wednesday. This trip was really weird. So leaving on a Wednesday and coming back on a Saturday was nice because I had yesterday to you know
Yeah, just
get settled again. But it was really weird leaving for a competition like that and then coming back at that time. But pit teen throwdown was pretty cool. Um, you went to the pit ranch last year, right?
yeah, I did. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a pretty cool spot.
it was the whole competition at the ranch.
Yeah, yeah, the whole thing was there.
Yeah, so when I went last year, it was divided in two places,
Right.
and the last day was in the ranch. Before that, it was in Kalamazoo,
Hmm.
and that's where they had the collegiate division. And I think they had the teens go in there after. So the teens were the last day of collegiate. It was their first day of the teens, so they did the first event at the ranch, and then they went to the Kalamazoo, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah. Is my camera crooked? No? Or am I crooked? Do you see the line on the wall behind me? Like the on the like the line? You see what I'm saying?
Uh,
It looks. Am I tripping?
is the house crooked?
I don't know. Maybe the house is crooked. Could be my camera too. Oh well. Anyways, my face isn't crooked, so that's what matters, right?
Hmm.
All right. So cycle overview. We're gonna start a little bit at the beginning here. Um, we haven't done a cycle overview podcast in a while, and it's because we kind of changed some things the last two cycles for ascend compete and ascend train, and also this had some bleed over into just a general, I would say, thought process for even a lot of our one-on-one athletes, right?
Hmm.
So we talked, I mean, a couple months ago, kind of after the open, even during the open and slightly before, as we were kind of building out the off-season plans and things like that. And typically in the past, we've always done the very traditional off-season model. You pull out a lot of the mixed modal work, a lot of the classic CrossFit work. You spend a lot of time running, rowing, biking, longer efforts, zone two, air quotes, zone three, whatever. And then there's just a lot of pure lifting and a lot of pure gymnastics, whether that's skill work or capacity building, things like that. And
Yeah.
that works, right? Like we know that works. 100% certain that works. But the issue, not the issue, but just the conversation we were having was, a lot of our one-on-one athletes do qualifiers, and a lot of athletes out there do qualifiers in the fall. They have competitions in the summer. Those people who aren't following necessarily the game season to a T, and even the ones who didn't make the games, they're probably going to do some kind of a qualifier or competition in the fall or winter. And I was kind of to the point where I was just tired of having this conversation with my one-on-ones where it's like, hey, yeah, you can do this comp, but I'm just not peaking you for CrossFit, and you need to be okay with that because our end goal is this, right? Our end goal is semifinals,
Quarterfinals,
quarterfinals, the open, whatever. That's when you want to be peaked. I'm not peaking you, especially in the dead of summer or right after the open. I'm not going to turn around and try to have you super fit for a competition in August or September, right? And that just led to not conflict with athletes, but just this conversation of like it was just hard to watch. Like all of our athletes always bought into that, but it was just like having that conversation with them at the competition or after the competition. Like, well, you're not peaked right now. Like we're not doing a lot of CrossFit. No, 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 no. it just sucks, right? Like it sucks for them, it sucks for us. So I sat down and I wanted to come up with a structure that made sense in terms of phasic periodization for a year that you could use and still build those things that you need to in the off season, but keep a fair amount of classic CrossFit training or intervals and things like that. So we did that the last two cycles. So we had the Cascade cycle, which was right after the Open, and then we had the Dolomite cycle, and now we're going into the Great Plains cycle. So we've done two cycles with this kind of style of programming or structure programming. And one of the reasons we hadn't done a podcast about it is because, I mean, I expected it to work, but I wasn't going to publicly get out there and be like, yeah, what we're doing is fucking awesome and is definitely working, until I had seen if it was actually going to work, right? But the proof is kind of in the pudding at this point. We've had people go through cycles that are structured this way, and people on Compete and Train, they've hit PRs, they've PR'd their lifts, they've PR'd their monostructural movements and things like that. So there's definitely proof in the pudding, in terms of the structure. I'm not going to dive too far into the structure itself. I don't necessarily feel like explaining that to everybody, or that most people who watch podcasts are going to find that the most riveting thing in the world. I just want to take some time to highlight what we're going to be focusing on this cycle. It will be following a similar structure to what we've been doing the last two cycles. And if people are curious to what that looks like in terms of the progression cycle to cycle, you can sign up for Ascend Athlete, or you can get one-on-one coaching from us, and we'll take you through it, and you'll realize why it works so well, and you'll be a really happy athlete. So moving through this cycle. So we're starting for our lifting. We'll kind of just go through the lifting, I think, first. For the back squat, we're progressing into 5s to 3s, right? So the last block, we did a lot of 6s and 8s. Now we're just slowly periodizing down through that rep scheme, going into 5s and 3s. We did this with the front squat the last cycle, and people hit some pretty solid PRs. I know some people have already kind of hit clean PRs and things like that. Some people are going to be hitting some front squat PRs. I know you've used this cycle for the gym, and people are looking really strong going into test week this week, right?
No, they did test week last week.
Or they did test week last week, yeah. And we had some, yeah, because we're in the dealer week. So, and people had some front squat PRs there.
Yeah.
So we're moving through that for the back squats. Also, randomly, I see, so first live stream, I have a little eyeball that says there's 5 people watching. If you're watching, you should comment so that I know you're actively watching and not just listening to me drone on with Mahmoud. Also, I want to see what the comments look like because this is our first time doing this. So anyways, so back squats, like I said, 5s down to 3s for this block, going into try to start peaking the back squat strength, right? Again, very much in line with what we would do in the off season. Right. We're not reinventing the wheel necessarily here. We're just changing some things with the way we're doing it. Some snatch doubles this cycle. So we did triples, right? Now we're going to sensically move into doubles, working on really building a new 1RM snatch, but doing so in a pretty structured, phasic manner. How did you, because you made it through most of the triples block.
What do you mean?
Were you able to complete most of the snatch triple sessions?
Myself?
Yeah, you.
No, that's the one thing that I wasn't able to. I did the cleans and I did the squats.
Okay.
The jerks a little bit, but this, due to an injury, I couldn't really.
Oh yeah, that's right. I knew you were getting in some of the progressions when we had talked. You were like, I want to make sure I get in these, but I didn't remember which one.
Yeah, I did end up getting under my all-time best clean. I didn't stand it up, but I got under it, and I haven't gotten under it since 2018. So,
I mean, yeah. I feel like you probably would have stood it up if you'd have been able to follow the whole progression, like all the progressions.
Well, I gave myself 8 minutes because I was rushed for class. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
instead of
you casually built up to a lifetime best and almost hit
right.
it in 8
My
minutes.
warm up was just put up something on the bar and start.
Yeah, attaboy. That's that coach warm up. Coaches know.
Yeah. And then I did end up front squatting. So we tested the 1 rep in the community cup mid
Mhm.
cycle,
Yeah.
and I squatted the 3 rep just 10 pounds under.
All right.
Yeah,
There we go.
that was fun.
All right. So snatch, we're going into doubles this block. Steady progression there. Like I said, push press. We're gonna bring back, and I don't know if you actually caught this when you were looking at the programming. We're gonna bring back a push press cycle that we have to give fair credit to Coach Ricky for. Yeah. From 20, we've done this cycle a couple times, 2022, 2023. I have never had somebody do this and they not PR their push press.
This is one of the more painful cycles.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's, rep max progression week to week. But if you do it and you put out hard effort when you do it, you will PR your push press, right? Yeah, people are usually sick of it about 3 weeks in, but they'll be all right. So push presses, something different this cycle. Our secondary lift for our kind of press focus day is the pendlay row. Now everybody's gonna be like, wow, why are we doing a pendlay row as like a main lift? And that's because it's freaking important and I want you to go hard on it. So we're making it a main lift, not in the accessory lifts, not, oh, I'm tired, I'm not going to do my accessory. No, this is the second lift you're doing in the gym that day. Go hard and put out effort. There's so many benefits to training the pendlay row with intention.
Right.
Like lat development, grip strength, rhomboids, erectors, because you're in that 90-degree angle bent over, unlike a traditional bent over row where you're more like 45 degrees. Like there's huge benefit to the clean, the snatch, deadlift endurance, pulling strength. So that's why it's the second lift. We want you to make it hard. So don't sandbag it if you're doing it. If your coach, if you're following compete or train and you're doing those, or if your coach is giving you that progression, don't sandbag it. Make them hard. It's okay. Also, don't kip them because that's annoying. So don't do that. Make them strict, but make them hard. Wednesdays, we're going to be hitting some power clean waves. Now, different from what we've been doing, but not something that is unparticular for us to do in an off-season cycle. You love waves. I love waves. Especially with something like the power clean, you get a little bit of that potentiation each time. And it's a good way to build up your strength in the power clean or your explosiveness, but also make your reps quality because you tend to lift better as you go when you're doing waves, and also CrossFitters tend to lift better as they get fatigued. So it's kind of a win-win there. Ooh, okay, somebody commented. Can you see that?
No. Oh, now I can.
Sweet. All right. What will be your favorite workout of the cycle? Ooh, that is a hard question. That's a hard question because unlike a lot of different programming companies and programming brands, I do not write out the entire cycle of Metcons and conditioning prior to starting the cycle. Some may say that's controversial. I don't really care. So that would be a question I will have to answer in retrospect. But when we do the cycle podcast for the next cycle, I can come back and we'll answer that question, and I will let you know what my favorite workout from the cycle was.
Well, do you have a favorite workout from the last cycle?
From the last cycle? Ooh, I definitely do, but I'm going to have to, let me find it. What was my favorite? Oh, I know exactly which one it was. It was 4 time 100 GHD sit-ups, 75 bar-facing burpees, 25 ring muscle-ups, 100 alternating dumbbell snatch. That was from the fourth week of the last cycle. So we had started introducing those high rep chippers, and I think that was the third week I'd programmed them, and I wanted to put 25 ring muscle ups in one of those so badly. And then when I wrote that out, and then seeing people do it and getting people scores from it, I was like, oh, it's just chef's kiss.
There you go.
So that was my favorite workout from last cycle in terms of a classic CrossFit workout. All right, where were we? We were talking Pendlay rows, or power cleans.
Waves, yeah.
Yeah, waves. So we are combining this cycle, the jerk and the clean. So we've had the last two cycles, they have been separate, right? We've had split jerk work from the rack, and we've had clean work. We're going to bring those back together and start working on the clean and jerk itself. Again, very phasic, very sensical, right? Thank you, Hi Chef. The people who did it might have disagreed, but I thoroughly enjoyed writing it. That's for sure. All right, cool. So clean and jerk triples. Front squat, we're going to go ahead and start peaking for a 1RM. So the front squats, we just wrapped up the 5s to 3s, right? And now we're going to go ahead and peak that front squat after a pretty long buildup on the front squat. We started this with the volume sets, the Florendo volume sets. Shout out to Trevor Florendo. Started the build a base of volume, did some 8s. No, we went straight to 5s and 3s. And then now we're going to go ahead and peak that front squat. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I'm excited, I'm confident we're going to see some really big front squat PRs on the single. So that kind of covers the weightlifting, which is not the weightlifting portion of the things we've changed is not really the controversial part in terms of what we're doing differently from what we've done in the previous years.
Right.
I mean, in a sense, it's different, but it's not significantly different. The differences come in the fact that every day of the week, there is a classic CrossFit option or a Metcon, so to speak.
Right.
I wouldn't say they're classic CrossFit all the time, but so Mondays, we have some lower body focus intervals. Tuesday, we have some upper body focused intervals. Wednesday is going to be typically more of a classic CrossFit stimulus, an AMRAP or a for time piece that's just generally more what you would expect from a normal air quotes CrossFit workout, right?
Yep.
And then Fridays, we're going to keep hitting these longer chippers or these denser rep workouts at a time for a longer time domain. I know it's the summer. I know if you live, down in the South where we are, it's hot, but I think we had talked about this on one of the podcasts, but those high rep chippers are just starting to make a comeback, right? We saw TFX had one. We saw Syndicate Crown had one. These dense rep chippers with a little bit of machine work, but a lot of volume in terms of toes to bar, wall balls, burpees, front squats, dumbbell snatch, box jump overs, etc. And they're a good way to train endurance and test endurance in CrossFit, especially from a muscle endurance perspective. But over the last, I would say, 5 years, we kind of all fell out of doing them.
Yeah.
I definitely did. I mean,
it was all rounds and rest.
Yeah, it was rounds and rest, or it was if you were testing endurance, and I know JR's talked about this a lot of times, if you were testing endurance, it was just very, very heavily machine-based.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'll admit, as a programmer, I was like, yeah, I mean, this is what they're testing. This is what we're going to do, right? Like, kind of that one slipped mind a bit in terms of those classic 100 style or 180, 60, 40 or 2 rounds of 50 and, those kind of things. So we brought those back the last cycle, and I don't see us moving those much at all. Will they always be 100 reps at a time or 80 reps at a time? No. Will they be rounds and descending rounds and things like that? Yes. But the goal and stimulus of those Friday Metcons is going to be 18 to 23 minutes of work,
Right.
and just accumulating a lot of reps and work in that fashion so that you are training that stimulus, because you can do all the set work you want. It does not translate the same way. You can do all the work rest you want, right? It's like I can run all the 800-meter repeats I want, and then when you tell me to go run a 5K, it's going to hit a little different, right?
Right.
So it's not to say that we're completely biasing towards that, but it's going to be in the programming. It's also something from a strategy perspective and a pacing perspective that is a super unique stimulus, right? How many people could we go back and find if we scrubbed all the footage from semifinals from TFX and Syndicate Crown who opened up or started with reps early in those workouts or paces they had no business holding?
Right.
Because they did not know, they have not done an adequate amount of workouts with that style and stimulus for them to know I'm about to get messed up. I'm going out way too hot, right? And that's a big reason we wanted to bring him back as well. CT, how do you train a strong core for the front squat? Legs are strong and could lift more, but core is caving in making me lose the barbell in front, lifting with lower back. All right. Yeah. So the way I would say to train a strong core for the front squat in particular, one, this is redundant, but front squatting is going to get you some benefit to that. Two, I'm a big fan of front rack holds. Loading yourself in the front rack with like 100 to 115% of your front squat and just holding it there for 30 seconds to a minute at a time, don't pass out, is a really good way to improve your kind of core strength specifically for the front squat. Carries, sandbag carries, front rack carries, front rack marches. What do you think? What do you got?
I like the tall kneeling position and all the accessories too. So if you do tall kneeling presses, tall kneeling Pavlov presses, tall kneeling, what's it called? Wood chops, banded wood chops. So like adding those in your accessories are pretty cool. Landmine stuff as well. And then I would add to that the tempo and pause front squats.
Yeah. Anderson front squats, tempo front squats, pause front squats. I would also
lighter weight.
Yeah. I would also throw in Sorensen holds. You know, I'm a sucker for Sorensen holds. For the erectors, hip extensions wouldn't be a bad idea, but I would probably prefer a Sorensen hold over hip extensions if he's certain core strength is the main issue. But yeah, those are some things you could definitely throw in. Just carries too. I'm just such a sucker for carries in terms of building carries and holds in terms of building isometric strength are typically just undefeated.
I also like GHDs under fatigue.
Yeah, GHDs for sure.
Straightforward path.
Yeah. Okay, so hundreds chippers, and then Saturdays this cycle are going to be kind of our, I would say, typical work rest intervals, sets of rounds, sets of Metcon repeats, that kind of stuff. And like I said, you have these conditioning options every single day, right? We are not taking out mixed modality work in the off-season training. And when we wrap up, I want to kind of clarify how this is still this is still an off-season relative to what the in-season will look like. But we'll get to that at the end. And then every day or not every day, but almost every day, we have some single modality or, just a couplet kind of engine and conditioning work. So We have anaerobic ski work this block. We have VO2 max row conditioning. We have some continuous intervals for the running conditioning, the single modality running conditioning this cycle. Again, I know it's hot, but if you can run outside. If weather permits and it's not raining or it's not so hot that you're going to have a heat stroke, get outside and run, especially if you are an athlete who needs to improve. Like, you actually need to improve your running. Like, your running holds you back and your aerobic fitness holds you back. Get off of the air runner. Get off of the air runner and go run outside. If you're a super solid runner, you've got a sub 5:30 mile, 5-minute mile, sub, I don't know, 28, 19, 20-minute 5K, sure, go run on the runner some. I don't care. It's not going to matter that much. But if you're an athlete who truly needs to improve your running, you need to be hitting pavement. Just the way it is. So continuous intervals for the running, kind of the typical run or jog, run, sprint, walk recovery, or easy jog recovery, those kind of intervals. And then we have a little bit of kipping, handstand, push-up, resilience work. This was kind of a thick concept, so to speak. Not a concept. Everybody's known this thing for a while. You have that interference effect or the fatigue, double unders into handstand push-ups, or hang power cleans into handstand push-ups, or ski erg into handstand push-ups. We've been playing with these kind of focuses for the last 2 cycles, where we're picking one of the gymnastics movements and just working varying styles of interference to build, 1, capacity of that movement, but 2, some direct muscle endurance in that pattern, right? And that's worked very well for not only our one-on-one athletes, but also the athletes at CrossFit Greater Heights. That bar muscle up cycle we did crushed at Greater Heights. People's pressing and bar muscle ups jumped way better than even I expected. So, all right. So that's the monostructural stuff. Accessory work. This is something that is different than a lot of programs, I feel like, and also us in the past. We used to kind of just douse people in accessory work. Like, there was just accessory work like 3 or 4 days a week, tons of it. There's accessory work listed twice a week right now, right? It's very specific accessory work, but it's not meant, if you're doing accessory work and you're not doing it with intention, you're wasting your time. That's just the honest truth, right? If you're doing accessory work and it's supposed to be Arnold's press and curls and whatever, and it has sets, 12 Arnold's press, 15 dumbbell bicep curls, and whatever else, and you're doing your sets of 12 with a weight that you could probably do for 20, and your sets of 15 curls with a weight that you could probably do for 25, you're not getting anything out of it.
Right.
So we pulled back the accessory work, and we're putting it more on days where you should have the energy to do it with intention. And the expectation is that you will do it with intention and make it hard. I'm of the opinion personally, like, if you're not going to do the accessory work and make it difficult, I would rather you save it for another day or just don't do it entirely.
Right.
Just straight up. You've already gotten in contraction volume. You've already gotten in mechanical tension. You've already gotten in some sort of a stimulus. Like, if you're not going to do it and do it, like I said, with intention and get something out of it, you're just taking away recovery at that point. Yeah. You're doing junk volume, right?
Yep.
So those are kind of the broad strokes for this upcoming cycle, right? We're continuing to progress the lifts in a pretty structured phasic manner. The conditioning modalities are changing in terms of the monostructural work from what they've been the last 2 cycles, but they're doing so in kind of a phasic manner. But this is not, if you look at a day of training, this is not an egregious amount of volume, really. Mm-hmm. Like, it's good volume, I would say, but I wouldn't say this is an in-season amount of volume.
Right.
It's not a preseason. I wouldn't even say it's a preseason amount of volume, really, for a lot of people. And that's kind of what I wanted to end with, is the concept of off season for CrossFit is something that just continues to be harder and harder to actually make sense of, right? When the game season was the predominant season, it was a little bit more sensical, but you still had to manage these off season competitions that have qualifiers and events and all those things, right? Now the WFP is here. Some competition dates have moved. Wadapalooza is in March now, next year. So it's getting continually harder and harder for athletes to have a true off season in terms of getting time to make those meaningful changes and adaptations in your training and not ending up with these massive swings and ebbs and flows in their fitness, right? And I'd be curious your opinion on this, but to me, part of the reason that I felt strongly about changing the structure of how we did things in the summer a bit and moving in this direction was I think for CrossFit athletes, most of the time, not all CrossFit athletes, but for a lot of CrossFit athletes, the difference between in season and off season is basically boils down to how much time are you focused on doing everything versus doing the things you really need to improve upon, right? And volume.
Yeah.
I think that's it at this point. I think the only thing that actually separates in season and off season for CrossFit athletes is how much volume you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, also, like, if you're not going to the games, there's no season.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm sorry,
100%.
but there's no season.
No.
That's the only thing that has a season-ish structure. But if you're an athlete that might make it to one or multiple semifinals or might not, yeah, you got no season. There's no offer on season at this point. You just need to be smart, periodize your training based on what you need to be doing and how to improve, and depends on what competitions you're going to sign up for.
Yeah, and I mean, gosh, even games athletes or high-level semifinals athletes, there are people who qualified for the games the first weekend in April and had you qualified for the games the first weekend of June.
Yeah.
So that's quite a bit of range if we're talking about a structured season, right?
Right. Imagine having from April to August versus from June to August.
Exactly. Right.
But then vice versa, like from the Open to April and from the Open to June.
Exactly. It's a moving goalpost regardless. Right. So I think at this point we are seeing the results for our athletes in terms of kind of taking this approach to training, and you have to be smart about it. You could definitely screw it up. But
yeah, absolutely.
I think it lends to keeping athletes much more prepared while still hedging towards the things they need to improve on in a smart manner with volume and intensity. Because we know the fire hydrant approach doesn't work, right? We know, okay, I'm just going to do 2 or 3 metcons a day, 2 or 3 lifts a day, and I'm going to hope I make the games before my body explodes. We know that doesn't work. But we also know, I think at this point, the typical sport periodization, which I swear by for a lot of things, it works, but I don't think it's optimal at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think it's optimal. So it needed to have some things updated and changed to it. So I think that kind of concludes what I wanted to talk about. We have a couple people watching. If you guys are watching and have some questions about the cycle, questions for us, we'll take a couple minutes and answer those since we're doing this live now. And actually the chat is kind of fun. So I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the chat. The new cycle will start next Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys will see this. The cycle hasn't started yet. If you want to check out the cycle, you sign up for Ascend Athlete on Sugarwod. The link and all that stuff will be in the show notes. And that will start next Monday. And it'll run through, let's see if I wrote down the dates. If I wrote down all the dates anyways, when I made the template. I definitely did not. I think it'll run into August, obviously. I think of mid-August is when it'll run through. Have you picked what lifts you're gonna have the gym focus on?
Uh, I think it would end at like middle of August, or week 7 would be the 23rd is gonna when it's gonna week 7 should end. So if there's
Yeah,
a deload week after, then it would be the end of August.
yeah, we'll have a deload week for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, it'll be the
so
end of August.
the eighth
Yeah,
week
yeah.
would end on Sunday, the 31st of August.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. Sets us up going right into September.
Mhm.
Beautiful. I love it when a calendar actually helps out. Usually
I
it's like, oh, cycle ends at this time, and you're like, fuck, it's the worst time.
the 11th of February.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I have not yet chosen the Greater Heights. I need to sit down and finesse that, but
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna, based on the feedback, I think we're doing the right thing for the gym as well. Just with the affiliate program, you kind of have to factor in a little bit more of like, okay, who's liking it, who's not liking it, how can we make it a little more fun, and then like, not everybody has the time to do 3 to 4 pieces, so can we also include some gymnastic strength or some gymnastic skills? And that's where things will get a little modified for the gym,
Mm.
from the skeleton.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been enjoying the progress that the people have been making, and I will say one of the more preferred workouts for me this past cycle was the last Friday's workout, which was the 100 toes to bar,
Mm.
80 dumbbell snatches, 60 ski ergs or calorie ski erg, and we ended with 40 double dumbbell thrusters. Yeah. I've seen people look at
uh,
me in confusion mid workout,
that's
but
awful.
I think it was a good workout.
I mean, it's a good chipper, but that's awful. Coming off a 60 cal ski, ugh.
When I did it, for me, the hardest part was the snatches. Getting
It was
off the
80.
toaster bar and picking it up, I was like, I do not want to pick this up at all.
It was 80 snatches.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's a significant number of dumbbell snatches.
it's not even that. Like, normally, that wouldn't faze me. It's just the shoulder fatigue from the toaster bar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
felt that before.
Toes to bar do get your shoulders. People generally just think of it as a midline movement, but there's definitely some periphery fatigue on the shoulders for sure.
Yeah, and the problem is the more midline conditioned you are,
Mm-hmm.
the earlier your shoulder are gonna burn out.
Yeah, the earlier something's gonna go. Yeah, and your
Yeah,
midline is definitely more enduring than your shoulders
yeah. Like
for
for
sure.
me, I didn't even get sore from that. It's just my shoulders hurt.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
That's funny.
All right, well, no questions. We're gonna pop off of here. I appreciate everybody who tuned in live. This was fun. We're doing all of our podcasts from now on live. So when we schedule one, it'll be live. We'll knock it out, and that's how we're gonna do our podcast. And if you guys watch in retrospect or after the fact and have some questions or comments about the podcast of the cycle, drop them in the comment section, and we'll get back to y'all. Appreciate it, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and sign up. Sugarwod, Ascend Athlete. Be there.